Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of her mining station, watching the twin suns of Kepler 442 paint the asteroid field in shades of gold and crimson. 3 years she had spent here, turning this barren rock into humanity's most profitable mining operation in the Outer Rim. The irony wasn't lost on her that the very success she had built was now the reason they wanted her gone. The holographic message from the Galactic Council flickered to life behind her, its cold blue light reflecting off the reinforced windows. Ambassador Zethric's elongated face appeared, his 4 eyes blinking in that synchronized pattern that always made humans uncomfortable. His voice carried the typical condescending tone that had become all too familiar since humanity joined the galactic community 15 years ago. Captain Chen, by order of the Galactic Mining Consortium and the Trade Regulation Authority, you are hereby commanded to cease all operations at Mining Station Prometheus and relocate to Sector 7G within 30 standard cycles. Your current operation violates the Established Species Priority Act, as the Zephyrian Empire has filed a legitimate claim to this system based on their historical presence in this region. Sarah's jaw tightened. Historical presence. The Zephyrians hadn't set foot in this system for over 2 centuries, abandoning it when they deemed the asteroid belt too dangerous to mine profitably. Now that humanity had proven it could be done safely and lucratively, suddenly they remembered their historical claim. She turned to face her second-in-command, Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, who had been standing silently behind her throughout the message. His dark eyes reflected the same anger she felt burning in her chest. They had both lost friends in the early days, when equipment failures and asteroid storms claimed lives weekly. They had both worked 18-hour shifts to make this place habitable, profitable, and safe. 30 cycles, Marcus said quietly. They're not even giving us enough time to properly shut down the deep core extractors. If we rush it, we'll lose millions in equipment. Sarah walked to her command chair, her fingers drumming against the armrest as she thought. The station around them hummed with life. 5,000 human workers and their families had made this place home. The children attended school in the habitat rings. Couples had married in the small chapel overlooking the asteroid field. And last month they had celebrated the birth of the first baby born on Prometheus Station. Pull up the Mining Consortium bylaws, she ordered. Section 15, Subsection 4. The Historical Claim Provisions. The main display shimmered, showing dense legal text that had been written by species who viewed time differently than humans. Most galactic species lived for centuries, making 50-year mining claims seem like brief ventures. For humans, with their shorter lifespans, such claims represented entire careers, entire lives. Marcus leaned over her shoulder, reading the relevant passage aloud. Any species with documented presence in a system within the last 500 standard years maintains priority mining rights, provided they can demonstrate technological capability to extract resources safely and efficiently. He paused. Sarah, the Zephyrians abandoned this place because they couldn't mine it safely. Their gravity manipulation technology isn't precise enough for asteroid belt operations. Exactly. Sarah's mind was already working through the implications. They can't demonstrate current technological capability because they don't have it. They're counting on us rolling over and walking away so they can purchase our equipment and techniques through technology sharing agreements. She stood and walked to the communication console. Her finger hovered over the transmission button that would send her response back to the Galactic Council. Once she pressed it, there would be no going back. The consequences could extend far beyond just her station. The corridor outside her command center bustled with activity. Through the reinforced windows, she could see workers in environmental suits guiding massive cargo haulers filled with rare minerals toward the processing center. These people trusted her. They had followed her to the edge of known space because she promised them opportunity and independence. Captain, came a voice from behind her. She turned to see Dr. Elizabeth Voss, the station's chief geologist and one of the most brilliant minds humanity had produced. I've been monitoring council communications. The Zephyrians aren't the only ones watching our success here. 3 other species have filed preliminary interest forms for our techniques. If we leave, this becomes a precedent. Sarah nodded grimly. Dr. Voss was right. Humanity was still the newest member of the galactic community, still proving their worth among species that had been traveling the stars for millennia. Every time they backed down, every time they accepted a subordinate position, it reinforced the perception that humans were junior partners rather than equals. She thought about her grandfather, who had fought in humanity's last great war on Earth. He used to tell her stories about impossible odds, about standing your ground when everyone expected you to run. Sometimes, he would say, you don't fight because you think you can win. You fight because it's the right thing to do. The communication console chimed softly, reminding her that a response was expected within 6 hours. Around her, the station continued its work, oblivious to the decision that would determine their fate. She could smell the recycled air, hear the distant hum of the fusion reactors, feel the slight vibration through the deck plating that meant home to 5,000 souls. Marcus stepped up beside her. Whatever you decide, Captain, you have our support. All of us. Sarah looked at him, then at Dr. Voss, then out at the asteroid field that had become more than a mining operation. It had become a symbol of human determination, ingenuity, and refusal to accept limitations imposed by others. She pressed the transmission button. Ambassador Zethric, this is Captain Sarah Chen of Mining Station Prometheus. After careful consideration of your relocation order, I must respectfully decline. Humanity's claim to this system is based on current occupation, technological innovation, and successful resource extraction. We have met and exceeded all safety and efficiency requirements. We will not be relocating. The message transmitted, carrying with it a declaration that would echo throughout the galaxy. For better or worse, humanity had drawn a line in the void. The response came faster than Sarah had expected. Less than 12 hours after her defiant message, AmbassadorZethric's image flickered to life again. But this time he wasn't alone. 3 other council representatives flanked him, a crystalline Velthron whose form shifted between solid and gaseous states, a massive Krogani whose tusks gleamed in the holographic light, and something that looked like a walking tree but spoke with the voice of rushing water. Captain Chen, Zethric began. His 4 eyes narrowing in what humans had learned was an expression of deep displeasure among his species. Your refusal to comply with lawful relocation orders constitutes a violation of 17 different galactic statutes. You have 48 hours to reconsider, or the Council will be forced to take enforcement action. The Krogani representative leaned forward, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. Humans stubborn. Always think they know better than species with 1,000 years wisdom. You make mistake that cost your people much. Sarah had dealt with Krogani before. They respected strength but viewed compromise as weakness. She kept her expression neutral as she replied, We respect the Council's authority in matters of legitimate law. However, our analysis of the relevant statutes shows that the Zephyrian claim lacks merit. We are prepared to defend our position through proper legal channels. What she didn't mention was that proper legal channels in galactic law could take decades to resolve, and humans didn't have the longevity to wait out such proceedings. Most species that brought disputes to galactic court were already planning for the court date to occur several generations in their future. After the transmission ended, Sarah called an emergency meeting of her senior staff. The conference room filled quickly with department heads, shift supervisors, and the elected representatives from each of the station's habitat sections. The diversity of the group always impressed her. Former military officers, civilian engineers, scientists, miners, teachers, and farmers who had volunteered to turn an asteroid into a home. They're serious about enforcement action, Sarah announced without preamble. Intelligence suggests they're dispatching a council enforcement fleet within the week. 3 Zephyrian heavy cruisers, a Krogani battleship, and a Velthran science vessel equipped with phase technology. Chief Engineer Jackson Wong, whose hands were permanently stained from working with exotic metals, spoke up first. What are our defensive capabilities, Captain? Because last I checked, we're a mining station, not a fortress. Sarah gestured to the tactical display that showed Prometheus Station's current configuration. We have industrial mining lasers that could be reconfigured as weapons, structural shields rated for asteroid impacts, and some of the most advanced early warning sensors in known space. But you're right. We weren't built for military action. Maybe we don't need to fight them directly, suggested Dr. Voss. Our advantage isn't military strength. It's our understanding of this environment. We know every asteroid, every gravitational anomaly, every solar flare pattern in this system. Marcus pulled up a 3-dimensional map of the asteroid field surrounding their station. Thousands of rocky bodies drifted in complex orbital patterns, some as small as houses, others large enough to have their own minor gravitational fields. The mining operation had mapped every significant object within a 50 million kilometer radius. The Council ships are designed for open space combat, he observed. Most galactic species avoid asteroid fields because navigation is too complex and dangerous. They'll have to approach carefully, which gives us time to prepare. Sarah studied the map, her strategic mind already working through possibilities. Her military training had been focused on Earth-based conflicts, but the principles of asymmetric warfare translated across environments, a smaller, more agile force that knew the terrain could potentially outmaneuver a larger, more powerful enemy. "What about evacuation?" asked Linda Chen, the station's civilian administrator and no relation despite sharing Sarah's surname. "We have over 1,500 non-essential personnel, including 300 children. Whatever we're planning, their safety comes first." The room fell silent. This was the heart of the dilemma. Sarah could order the military personnel and essential crew to stay and fight, but asking families to risk their lives for a mining claim felt different. These people had trusted her judgment when they followed her to the edge of known space. They deserved honesty about what they were facing. "We begin evacuation procedures immediately," Sarah decided. "All non-essential personnel and families with children under 16. Transport ships will take them to the nearest human colony at New Geneva. But we make it voluntary. Anyone who wants to stay and help defend our home has that right." Over the next 24 hours, Sarah watched half her population prepare to leave. The evacuation ships arrived from human space, their captains expressing everything from admiration to concern about the situation. Some called her a hero for standing up to galactic authority. Others called her reckless for risking human lives over a mining operation. But something unexpected happened during the evacuation. For every person who left, another volunteered to stay. Retired military personnel from human colonies requested permission to join the defense. Mining engineers from other human operations arrived with cargo holds full of equipment and determination. Word had spread through human space that one of their own was making a stand, and people were responding. Dr. Voss approached Sarah as she watched the latest arrival dock with the station. "Captain, you need to see this. We've been analyzing the quantum signatures from Zephyrian mining equipment in their previous operations. Their gravity manipulation technology isn't just imprecise for asteroid work. It's actively dangerous in complex gravitational fields like this one." Sarah followed her to the geology lab, where complex equations covered every available surface. Dr. Voss gestured to a holographic model, showing gravitational forces in the asteroid field. If they try to use their standard mining techniques here, they could destabilize the orbits of hundreds of asteroids. The gravitational cascade could destroy everything within 10 million kilometers, including our station. And they know this? They have to. The physics are elementary for any species with space travel capability, which means either they're planning to use different technology than they've ever demonstrated before, or... She paused, letting the implication hang in the air. "Or they're counting on us not being here when they arrive." Sarah finished. "They expect us to run, leaving behind all our infrastructure and techniques for them to study and adapt." The next morning brought news that changed everything. A human merchant vessel arriving from the core worlds carried a message from Earth's galactic representative. Humanity's government was officially ordering Sarah to comply with the Council's relocation demand. The message was clear. Earth couldn't afford to antagonize the Council over a single mining operation, regardless of the principle involved. Sarah sat in her quarters after reading the message, feeling the weight of isolation. Now she wasn't just defying alien authority, she was defying her own government. The people who had chosen to stay were no longer just risking their lives for a mining claim. They were risking their citizenship, their connection to humanity itself. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. Marcus entered, his expression grim but determined. "Captain, the crew has voted. All 2,847 people remaining on station. Unanimous decision. We stay and fight." The Council enforcement fleet arrived 3 days ahead of schedule, emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system like avenging angels. Sarah watched their approach from the command center, tracking 5 massive vessels as they began their careful navigation through the outer asteroid belt. "Range, 40 million kilometers and closing," reported sensor operator Kim Park, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were facing. "The Zephyrian ships are maintaining formation, but they're moving slower than expected. Looks like they're having trouble with navigation calculations." Chief Wong's voice crackled over the communication system from engineering. "Captain, I've finished modifications to mining laser array 7. It's not pretty, but we can punch through standard military shielding at close range. Of course, we only get one shot before they realize what we've done." Sarah nodded, though Wong couldn't see her. The plan they had developed over the past week was desperate, relying more on surprise and environmental knowledge than firepower. They had repositioned 17 mining platforms throughout the asteroid field, each one now equipped with improvised weapons and crewed by volunteers who understood they might not survive the next few hours. "Communications. Open a channel to the lead Zephyrian vessel," Sarah ordered. Ambassador Zethric's face appeared on the main screen, his expression showing the confident satisfaction of someone who believed victory was inevitable. Behind him, Sarah could see the bridge of a Zephyrian heavy cruiser, its crew moving with the efficient precision of professional military personnel. "Captain Chen, I had hoped you would reconsider your position. This display of defiance serves no purpose except to endanger your people unnecessarily. Ambassador, I appreciate your concern for our safety. However, I must ask you to halt your advance and withdraw from this system. Our analysis indicates that Zephyrian gravitational mining technology poses an unacceptable risk to the structural stability of this asteroid field." Zethric's 4 eyes blinked in what Sarah had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of laughter. "Captain, my people have been manipulating gravity for over 3,000 years. I think we understand the physics involved better than a species that has barely mastered basic space travel." Dr. Voss stepped forward, her scientific credentials displayed prominently on her uniform. "Ambassador, with respect, the gravitational dynamics in this system are unique. The asteroid field exists in a delicate equilibrium between 3 major gravitational sources. Our calculations show that large-scale gravity manipulation could trigger a cascade effect." "Human calculations," Zethric dismissed, "based on limited understanding and primitive sensors. We will proceed with lawful enforcement of Council directives." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah's crew in tense silence. Through the viewports, they could see the distant lights of the approaching fleet, growing steadily brighter as massive ships pushed deeper into the asteroid field. Marcus appeared at Sarah's side, carrying a tablet displaying tactical information. "Captain, the Krogani battleship is taking point position. Intelligence suggests their captain is someone named Warlord Thurok. He's got a reputation for aggressive tactics and personal combat." "Of course he does," Sarah muttered. Krogani culture revolved around concepts of honor and strength. Thurok would see this confrontation as a personal challenge, which made him both more dangerous and potentially more predictable. "Ma'am," Kim called from her sensor station, "I'm detecting unusual readings from the Valthran science vessel. They're scanning our modifications to the mining platforms. I think they know what we've done." Sarah's mind raced through their options. The element of surprise had been crucial to their plan. If the Council fleet knew about their improvised weapons, they would adjust their approach accordingly. But perhaps there was another way to use that information. "Wong, are you monitoring this?" "Yes, Captain. I can trigger a controlled overload in Platform 12's laser array. Make it look like our modifications are unstable. Might convince them we're more desperate than dangerous. Do it." 30 seconds later, a brief flash of light erupted from Platform 12, followed by what appeared to be an explosion. Debris scattered in a convincing display of technical failure, and the platform went dark. On the tactical display, Sarah watched the Council fleet adjust their formation. The Valthran science vessel moved forward, presumably to analyze the debris and determine the extent of human weapon capabilities. "That's it," she whispered. "Come closer." The science vessel approached cautiously, its exotic sensors probing the debris field. Valthrans were naturally curious, and their technology was based on phase manipulation rather than brute force. They would want to understand exactly what the humans had attempted before proceeding. "Platform 15, you have a clear shot at the science vessel," Marcus reported. "Range 2 million kilometers in closing," Sarah hesitated. Once they fired the first shot, there would be no possibility of negotiation or retreat. They would be committed to a fight they couldn't win through conventional means. But Dr. Voss had been right about the gravitational instability. If the Zephyrians proceeded with their standard mining techniques, the resulting catastrophe would destroy everything in the system anyway. "Platform 15, you are authorized to fire." The modified mining laser struck the Valthran science vessel amidships, its focused beam designed to cut through asteroid rock, proving equally effective against alien hull plating. The ship's exotic matter containment failed, causing a spectacular explosion that lit up the asteroid field like a small sun. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The Krogani battleship accelerated toward their position, its massive guns already charging. The Zephyrian cruisers spread out in an attack formation, their gravity manipulation systems beginning to affect nearby asteroids. All platforms, implement dispersal pattern Alpha, Sarah ordered. Make them hunt for us. What followed was unlike any battle in recorded galactic history. Traditional space combat involved massive ships exchanging fire across vast distances in the empty void between stars. This was something else entirely. A three-dimensional maze where human mining platforms played deadly hide-and-seek among tumbling asteroids. Platform 7 scored a hit on a Zephyrian cruiser before being destroyed by return fire. Platform 22 used its position behind a large asteroid to ambush the Krogani battleship, damaging its engines before being obliterated by a spread of plasma torpedoes. But the humans were learning their enemies' patterns. The Krogani fought with savage directness, charging straight at targets and relying on superior firepower. The Zephyrians were more cautious, using their gravity manipulation to clear safe passages through the asteroid field before advancing. Captain, Dr. Voss called urgently from her science station. The Zephyrian gravity manipulation is having exactly the effect we predicted. Asteroid 2247 Alpha just shifted orbit by 3 degrees. If they keep this up, she didn't need to finish. Sarah could see the data herself. The delicate gravitational balance that kept thousands of asteroids in stable orbits was beginning to collapse. What had taken millions of years to achieve naturally was being undone in hours by alien technology that treated gravity like a tool rather than a fundamental force. Open a channel to all council ships, Sarah ordered. Emergency priority. Warlord Thurok's massive face filled the screen, his tusks bloodied from what appeared to be a recent battle with his own crew. Krogani leadership disputes were often settled violently. Human captain, you fight well for prey species. When I capture your station, I will grant you warrior's death instead of execution for rebellion. Warlord Thurok, you need to order the Zephyrian ships to cease their gravity manipulation immediately. They're destabilizing the entire asteroid field. If the cascade effect reaches critical mass, it will destroy everything in this system, including your ships. Thurok's laugh rumbled like an avalanche. Human fear tactics. You cannot defeat us in honest battle, so you invent phantom dangers. Behind him, Sarah could see Thurok's science officer frantically trying to get his attention, pointing at sensor readings that apparently confirmed the gravitational instability. But Krogani commanders were notorious for ignoring scientific advice during combat. The first sign that Dr. Voss had been right came when asteroid 1847 Beta, a massive rock nearly 2 kilometers across, suddenly lurched out of its stable orbit. The gravitational disturbance created by continuous Zephyrian manipulation had reached a tipping point, and now physics was taking over with inexorable momentum. Captain, Kim's voice carried a note of panic as she monitored the cascading orbital changes. Asteroid collision probability is climbing exponentially. We've got 17 major bodies on intercept courses with inhabited mining platforms. Sarah watched the tactical display update in real time, showing the beautiful and terrifying dance of celestial mechanics gone wrong. Rocks that had circled peacefully for eons were now careening toward each other with the momentum of small moons. Platform 6. Platform 6, you have a Class 7 asteroid bearing down on your position. Recommend immediate evacuation. The response came back crackling with static as the platform's communication array was damaged by debris from a nearby collision. Negative, Captain. We've still got 43 people in the mining shafts. Need 12 more minutes to get them out. 12 minutes they didn't have. The asteroid would impact in 7. Wong, can we use the mining charges to alter that asteroid's trajectory? Already calculating, Captain. If we detonate charges Alpha through Delta in sequence, we might be able to nudge it enough to miss Platform 6, but the explosion will definitely get the Council fleet's attention. Do it. The synchronized detonation lit up space with a brilliant flash, sending shockwaves rippling through the asteroid field. The massive rock's trajectory shifted just enough to miss Platform 6 by less than a kilometer, but the effort revealed the location of 3 hidden mining platforms to the searching Council ships. Warlord Thurok's battleship immediately changed course toward the nearest revealed position, its massive guns already training on Platform 19. But as the Krogani ship accelerated through the disturbed asteroid field, something unexpected happened. "Captain, the Krogani ship just lost main power," Marcus reported with amazement. "They flew through the debris field from our mining charges and their hull plating couldn't handle the impact velocity." On the screen, they could see the massive battleship tumbling slowly, its lights flickering as internal systems failed. Krogani ships were built for durability in open space combat, but the combination of high speed and thousands of small debris impacts had overwhelmed their defenses. "That's one down," Sarah said grimly. "But we've still got 3 Zephyrian cruisers and they're learning from Thurok's mistake." The remaining Council ships had indeed adapted their tactics. Instead of charging directly through the asteroid field, they were using their gravity manipulation technology more precisely, creating clear corridors through the debris, while being careful not to destabilize any more major asteroids. Unfortunately, this meant they were approaching Prometheus Station steadily and methodically. Sarah's defensive plan had relied on the chaos of the asteroid field to level the playing field. If the Zephyrians could navigate safely through the obstacles, their superior firepower would decide the battle quickly. "Dr. Voss, how long before the gravitational cascade becomes irreversible?" The scientist looked up from her calculations, her face pale with the implications of what she was seeing. "At current rates of disturbance, approximately 47 minutes. After that, the orbital mechanics will continue degrading even if all gravity manipulation stops immediately." Sarah felt the weight of command settling on her shoulders like a physical burden. In less than an hour, her decision to stand and fight would result in the destruction of everything they had built, regardless of who won the battle. The asteroid field that had been their protection would become their tomb. Communications. Open a channel to all Council ships and all human personnel. Emergency broadcast. The main screen split to show the 3 remaining Council ship commanders. Ambassador Zethric looked confident, while the other 2 Zephyrian captains appeared increasingly nervous as their science officers briefed them on the gravitational situation. "This is Captain Sarah, Chen addressing all vessels in the Kepler 442 system. As you can see from your sensor readings, the gravitational cascade is approaching critical mass. In 46 minutes, the orbital mechanics of this asteroid field will collapse completely. This will create a debris wave that will destroy everything within 15 million kilometers." AmbassadorZethric's image flickered with what appeared to be interference from the gravitational disturbances. "Captain Chen, even if your calculations are correct, our ships can simply withdraw to a safe distance and wait for the cascade to complete. Your station, however, cannot leave its position." "That's correct," Sarah acknowledged. "Prometheus Station will be destroyed, along with the 3,000 people who chose to stay and defend it. But you're missing something important, Ambassador." She gestured to Dr. Voss, who stepped forward with a data tablet displaying complex orbital mechanics calculations. "The gravitational cascade won't stop at this asteroid field," Dr. Voss explained. "The combined mass of debris will affect the orbital mechanics of the inner planets. Planet Kepler 442b, where the Zephyrian Empire maintains its largest refining facility outside their home system, will experience significant orbital decay. Your facility there, with its 40,000 workers, will face increasingly severe environmental conditions." The silence that followed was profound. Sarah could see the Zephyrian commanders conferring urgently with their science officers, confirming calculations that none of them wanted to believe. Furthermore, Dr. Voss continued, "The debris wave will interfere with hyperspace navigation in this entire sector for approximately 50 years. The 7 major trade routes that pass through Kepler 442 space will have to be rerouted, adding significant time and cost to interstellar commerce." Ambassador Zethric's 4 eyes were no longer blinking in amusement. "You are saying that this cascade will affect systems light years away?" "Gravity doesn't respect political boundaries, Ambassador. The effects will ripple through local space for decades, and it all started because your ships used large-scale gravity manipulation in an unstable asteroid field." Sarah watched the implications sink in. What had begun as a simple enforcement action to remove stubborn humans from a mining claim was now threatening to disrupt galactic trade and destroy major Zephyrian facilities. "There is a solution," Sarah added quietly, "but it requires immediate cooperation from all vessels in the system." Speak, Zethric ordered. We use controlled gravitational manipulation to restabilize the asteroid field. My people know the original orbital patterns. We've been monitoring them for 3 years. Your ships have the technology to implement precise gravitational adjustments. Working together, we can reverse the cascade before it reaches critical mass. And why would you help us after we came to destroy your station? Asked Captain Vorthak, one of the other Zephyrian commanders. Sarah looked around her command center at the faces of people who had risked everything for principle. Marcus stood ready at his station. Dr. Voss continued monitoring the gravitational data. Kim tracked the approaching asteroids with professional calm. Chief Wang's voice could be heard over the intercom, directing damage control efforts with steady competence. Because that's what humans do, Sarah said simply. We solve problems, even when those problems were created by people who wanted to destroy us. The offer hung in space like a challenge. Sarah knew that accepting it would require the Council commanders to admit that their enforcement action had created a disaster, and that they needed human help to fix it. For species that had treated humanity as junior partners in galactic civilization, that was almost as difficult as facing the consequences of the cascade. Ambassador Zethric was the first to respond. Captain Chen, what exactly do you propose? The next 4 hours transformed bitter enemies into desperate allies. Sarah found herself working directly with Zephyrian science officers, their advanced gravitational technology guided by human knowledge of local conditions. The irony wasn't lost on anyone that the same technology used to try to destroy the human mining operation was now their only hope for survival. Captain Vorthak, we need your ship to position itself at coordinates 247 Mark 183 and generate a gravitational anchor point, Dr. Voss instructed over the communication link. The massive asteroid cluster Delta 7 is drifting toward an unstable resonance with the outer belt. Sarah watched the Zephyrian cruiser move into position with elegant precision. Whatever else could be said about their attempt to remove humanity from the system, the Zephyrian crews were highly skilled professionals. Their ships danced through the chaotic asteroid field with grace that made human vessels look clumsy by comparison. Gravitational anchor established, came Vorthak's response, reading significant mass displacement in the target cluster. Your calculations were correct, Dr. Voss. The collaboration was working, but barely. For every asteroid they managed to restabilize, 2 more seemed to shift into dangerous trajectories. The cascade effect had gained momentum that was proving difficult to reverse, even with the combined efforts of human knowledge and Zephyrian technology. Marcus approached Sarah's command chair with a communication tablet. Captain, we're getting reports from the outer mining platforms. Platform 37 managed to evacuate successfully, but Platform 41 is trapped. A cluster of smaller asteroids has surrounded their position, and they can't maneuver clear. Sarah studied the tactical display showing Platform 41's predicament. The mining platform was essentially trapped in a cage of tumbling rocks, any one of which could destroy it if the collision occurred at the wrong angle or velocity. Options? We could ask one of the Zephyrian ships to clear a path with their gravity manipulators, but their technology isn't precise enough for close work around a human installation. Too much risk of accidentally crushing the platform. Sarah was about to respond when an unexpected voice came over the communication system. Human Captain, this is Warlord Thurok. The image that appeared on screen showed the massive Krogani commander standing in what appeared to be an emergency shelter aboard his damaged battleship. His tusks were chipped and his armor was scored with battle damage, but his eyes still held the fierce intelligence that had made him a successful military leader. Warlord, I thought your ship was disabled. Engines still dead, weapons offline but life support functioning. I have been monitoring your cooperation with Zephyrian ships. He paused, seeming to struggle with what he wanted to say. Krogani vessels are built for ramming attacks. Hull design optimized for impact survival. If you can calculate trajectory precisely, my ship could clear path to trapped platform. Sarah stared at the screen in amazement. Thurok was offering to use his disabled battleship as a massive battering ram to save human lives, even though doing so would likely result in the complete destruction of his vessel and potentially his own death. Warlord, the risk to your crew would be extreme. Krogani military doctrine doesn't require such sacrifice for non-allied species. Thurok's laugh rumbled with dark humor. Krogani military doctrine requires warriors to die with honor. Better to save lives than drift in space waiting for rescue that may never come. Besides, his expression grew serious. I have seen how humans fight today. You are not prey species. You are worthy opponents who became worthy allies. Dr. Voss was already running calculations on our workstation. Captain, if we can time it precisely, Warlord Thurok's ship could impact the largest asteroid in the cluster and scatter the debris in a controlled pattern. It would create a clear corridor for Platform 41 to escape. And the Krogani ship? Total destruction on impact. No way around the physics involved. Sarah looked at Thurok's image on the screen, seeing a warrior who had found a way to transform defeat into honor. Warlord, I need you to understand this is a suicide mission. Your ship won't survive the impact. Understood, human captain. My crew has volunteered. We die as warriors, saving lives instead of taking them. This is good death. The next 20 minutes involved precise calculations and careful maneuvering. The disabled Krogani battleship had to be positioned exactly right for its final trajectory, while Platform 41 prepared for a desperate escape run through the debris corridor that would be created. All stations, this is Warlord Thurok. Today we prove that honor transcends species. Today Krogani warriors die not as conquerors but as protectors. May our sacrifice be remembered in the songs of both our peoples. The massive battleship began its final descent toward the asteroid cluster, using maneuvering thrusters to maintain course. Sarah watched on the tactical display as the vessel's path intersected perfectly with the largest asteroid threatening Platform 41. The impact was spectacular and heartbreaking. The Krogani battleship struck the 2-kilometer-wide asteroid at precisely the right angle, its reinforced hull designed for ramming attacks holding together just long enough to transfer maximum momentum. The asteroid shattered into thousands of smaller pieces, creating an expanding debris field that swept the other threatening rocks away from Platform 41's position. Corridor is clear, Marcus reported. Platform 41 is moving to safety. Sarah bowed her head for a moment, honoring the sacrifice of warriors who had begun the day as enemies and ended it as heroes. The comm channels were silent except for the static of space and the distant voices of Platform 41's crew expressing their gratitude to people who could no longer hear them. But there was no time for extended mourning. The gravitational cascade was still approaching critical mass, and they had lost valuable time with the rescue operation. Dr. Voss, status report on the overall stabilization effort. We're making progress, Captain, but it's going to be close. The outer belt is responding well to the gravitational anchors, but the inner asteroids are still showing dangerous resonance patterns. We need to complete the stabilization sequence within the next 18 minutes, or the cascade becomes irreversible. Ambassador Zethrik's voice came over the communication system, his tone more respectful than it had been at any point during their interactions. Captain Chen, my science officers report that we are reaching the limits of our gravitational manipulation capabilities. The power requirements for this level of precise control are straining our fusion reactors. Sarah felt her heart sink. If the Zephyrian ships couldn't maintain the gravitational anchors, all their efforts would be wasted. The cascade would complete its destructive cycle, and everything in the system would be doomed. Ambassador, how much longer can your ships maintain current power output? Approximately 12 minutes at maximum efficiency. After that, we will need to reduce power or risk reactor overload. 12 minutes to complete a process that required 18. Sarah's mind raced through the tactical situation, looking for alternatives, for some way to buy the extra time they needed. Wong, what's the status on our mining laser modifications? Most of the weapon systems were destroyed during the battle, Captain. But I've still got mining laser array 1 operational. It's not much firepower, but the focusing system is intact. An idea began to form in Sarah's mind. Desperate and dangerous, but potentially workable. Dr. Voss, could we use a precisely focused laser to trigger controlled detonations in specific asteroids? Create gravitational adjustments through mass redistribution instead of direct manipulation? Dr. Voss looked up from her calculations, her eyes bright with sudden understanding. It's possible, but the targeting would have to be perfect. We're talking about surgical strikes on asteroids that are tumbling in complex rotational patterns. Miss the optimal impact point by even a few meters, and we could make the cascade worse instead of better. But it would reduce the power requirements on the Zephyrian ships? Significantly. Instead of trying to move whole asteroids with gravity, we'd be using explosions to nudge them into stable orbits. Much more efficient from an energy standpoint. Sarah turned to her communication console. All stations, this is Captain Chen. We're implementing Emergency Protocol 77 Alpha. I need every qualified pilot to report for precision mining operations. This is not a drill. What followed was the most precise mining operation in human history. Using targeting data provided by Dr. Voss and supported by Zephyrian gravitational fine-tuning, human pilots guided mining charges to specific points on tumbling asteroids with surgical accuracy. Each explosion had to be timed perfectly, taking into account the asteroid's rotation, velocity, and gravitational influences from nearby objects. Too much explosive force would shatter the asteroid into dangerous fragments. Too little would fail to alter its trajectory enough to matter. Platform crews who had spent the day fighting for their lives now found themselves performing the most delicate work of their careers. Mining operations that normally took hours were compressed into minutes, with the fate of the entire system depending on their skill and precision. Detonation successful on Target Alpha 7, reported pilot Jennifer Walsh from her mining shuttle. Asteroid trajectory now stable within acceptable parameters. The silence that followed Dr. Voss's announcement was profound. After hours of frantic activity, emergency broadcasts, and life-or-death decisions, the sudden absence of crisis felt almost surreal. Sarah looked around her command center at faces that showed exhaustion, relief, and something else, the quiet pride that comes from achieving the impossible. All ships. All stations, this is Captain Chen. The immediate emergency has passed. All personnel are authorized to stand down from crisis protocols. She paused, looking at the tactical display that now showed stable orbital patterns throughout the asteroid field. I want to express my gratitude to every person who participated in this operation. Today we proved that cooperation can overcome even the most desperate circumstances. Ambassador Zethrick's image appeared on the communication screen, his 4 eyes showing an expression that Sarah had never seen from a Zephyrian before, something that looked remarkably like humility. Captain Chen, my science officers have completed their analysis of the stabilization operation. The precision required for your explosive placement calculations was extraordinary. We had not previously understood the sophistication of human orbital mechanics knowledge. Thank you, Ambassador. Your gravitational manipulation technology made the operation possible. Neither of our species could have solved this crisis alone. The admission hung in space between them, carrying implications that extended far beyond the immediate situation. For the first time since humanity had joined the galactic community, alien representatives were acknowledging human capabilities as essential rather than merely useful. Dr. Voss approached Sarah's command chair with a data tablet containing preliminary damage assessments. Captain, we lost 7 mining platforms and 3 shuttles during the crisis. 43 people are confirmed dead, including Warlord Thurok and his entire crew, but we saved over 2,600 human lives, plus the Zephyrian crews and the installations on Kepler 442b. The cost had been real and painful. Sarah thought about the families who would receive notification that their loved ones had died defending a mining operation in the middle of nowhere. They deserved to know that their sacrifice had meaning beyond the immediate crisis. Dr. Voss, I want you to prepare a complete technical report on everything we learned during this operation. Gravitational cascade prevention, precision asteroid manipulation, cross-species emergency cooperation protocols. This information needs to be shared with every species in the galactic community. You want to give away our advantages? Marcus asked quietly. Sarah looked at him with understanding. After being treated as second-class citizens in galactic affairs, it was natural to want to hoard any technological edge they had gained. But that thinking missed the larger picture. Our advantage was never the technology, Marcus. It was our willingness to work together, and our refusal to accept that problems can't be solved. Those aren't secrets we can keep. They're examples we have to set. Captain Vorthak's voice joined the conversation from his position in the outer asteroid belt. Captain Chen, I must ask about the status of your mining operation. The original dispute that brought us here remains unresolved. The Zephyrian Empire's claim to this system is still legally valid under Council law. Sarah had been dreading this moment. The crisis was over, but the fundamental conflict that had started everything remained. Under Galactic law, the Council still had the authority to order human evacuation from the system. The fact that humanity had helped prevent a disaster didn't automatically invalidate Zephyrian mining claims. I understand the legal situation, Captain Vorthak. However, I believe today's events have demonstrated something important about those laws. She gestured to the tactical display showing the stabilized asteroid field. The Council's legal framework assumes that any species with historical presence in a system can safely extract resources there. But we've proven that assumption is false. The Zephyrian Empire abandoned this system because your technology couldn't handle the gravitational complexity safely. Only human techniques developed specifically for this environment can operate here without risking catastrophic cascade effects. Ambassador Zethric leaned forward on the communication screen. Are you suggesting that human occupation of this system is a matter of public safety? I'm suggesting that some environments require specialized knowledge to exploit safely. This asteroid field is one of them. Any attempt to use standard galactic mining techniques here will eventually trigger another cascade, and next time we might not be able to reverse it. Dr. Voss stepped forward to support Sarah's argument. Ambassador, our analysis shows that this type of gravitational instability exists in approximately 12% of all asteroid fields in known space. Most species avoid them because the risks are too high, but humans have developed techniques that make such systems accessible. The implications were staggering. If humanity could safely mine asteroid fields that other species considered too dangerous, it would fundamentally change their position in the galactic economy. Instead of being junior partners grateful for whatever opportunities they were allowed, humans could become essential specialists in high-risk, high-reward operations. Captain Vorthak spoke carefully, his words carrying the weight of official policy. The Zephyrian Empire would be interested in licensing human mining techniques for use in similar systems under our control. Sarah smiled, recognizing the diplomatic language for what it was, an acknowledgement that humanity had something valuable to offer. I'm sure such arrangements could be negotiated through proper channels. But first we need to resolve the status of this system. What do you propose? Ambassador Zethric asked. Joint operation, human expertise in gravitational dynamics and precision mining. Zephyrian technology for large-scale gravitational manipulation and transportation. Shared profits, shared responsibility, shared knowledge. Both species benefit, and the Council gets a working model for how to handle similar situations in the future. The silence that followed lasted nearly a full minute. Sarah could imagine the rapid conversations happening on Zephyrian ships as military commanders consulted with their political and scientific advisors. This wasn't just about one mining operation anymore. It was about establishing precedents for human-alien cooperation. Captain Chen, Ambassador Zethric said finally, such an arrangement would require formal approval from the Galactic Council and the Zephyrian Imperial Senate. The negotiations could take months, I understand. In the meantime, I assume our people can continue current operations while maintaining full safety protocols? That seemed reasonable. Sarah felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. It wasn't a complete victory. There would still be months of complex negotiations, legal challenges, and bureaucratic maneuvering. But the fundamental principle had been established. Humanity would not be forced to abandon what they had built, and their expertise would be recognized as valuable rather than merely tolerated. Marcus leaned close to her ear. Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. The Colonial Administration wants a full report on the situation. Sarah nodded, knowing that the political ramifications of her defiance would continue long after the immediate crisis had passed. Earth's government had ordered her to comply with the Council's relocation demand. Instead, she had not only refused, but had also negotiated what amounted to a partnership agreement with the same alien government that had tried to evict them. Tell them we'll have a full report ready within 24 hours. And Marcus, make sure they understand that we didn't just save the mining operation today. We changed the rules of the game. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the same observation deck where she had first received the Council's relocation order. But everything had changed. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the sleek lines of a Zephyrian research vessel docked alongside human mining platforms, their crews working together to implement the joint operation protocols that had emerged from months of careful negotiation. The Prometheus Joint Mining Initiative had become a model for interspecies cooperation throughout the galaxy. Representatives from 17 different civilizations had visited the station to study their techniques, and 3 similar operations were already being planned in other unstable asteroid systems. Dr. Voss approached carrying her daily report, her face showing the satisfied exhaustion of someone whose expertise had become indispensable. "Captain, the latest gravitational monitoring data shows perfect stability across all orbital zones. The Zephyrian gravity anchors are working exactly as designed, and our mining operations are exceeding projected efficiency by 12%. Any problems with the integrated crew assignments? Minor cultural adjustment issues, but nothing serious. The Zephyrian engineers have been remarkably adaptable to human safety protocols, and our people are learning their gravitational manipulation techniques faster than anyone expected." Sarah nodded, pleased but not surprised. Humans had always been quick to learn and adapt, especially when the knowledge offered practical advantages. The combination of human precision and Zephyrian technology was proving more effective than either species had achieved independently. Marcus entered the observation deck carrying a communication tablet with the priority seal of Earth's colonial administration. "Captain, you need to see this. It's from the Colonial Council." Sarah accepted the tablet and read the message, her expression shifting from concern to amazement to something approaching vindication. The formal communication was written in the careful, diplomatic language that bureaucrats used when they wanted to take credit for decisions they had initially opposed. "The Colonial Administration wishes to commend Captain Sarah Chen and the crew of Mining Station Prometheus for their innovative approach to interspecies cooperation. The success of the Prometheus Joint Mining Initiative has opened new opportunities for human participation in galactic commerce and has enhanced humanity's reputation as valuable partners in complex resource extraction operations." She handed the tablet back to Marcus with a wry smile. "6 months ago, they were ready to court-martial me for refusing to obey evacuation orders. Now I'm an example of innovative diplomacy." "Funny how success changes perspective," Marcus observed. "What about the other part of the message?" Sarah's expression grew more serious. The second half of the communication contained news that was both exciting and daunting. The success at Prometheus had convinced the Galactic Council to invite humanity to join the Resource Extraction Committee, one of the most influential bodies in galactic government. It was an opportunity that could fundamentally change humanity's position in interstellar affairs. They want me to represent humanity at the committee's next session on Galactic Station Alpha. The agenda includes proposals for human-led operations in 6 other unstable systems. Dr. Voss looked up from her report with interest. That would make humanity the leading specialist in high-risk asteroid mining operations. The economic implications are enormous. It was true. The techniques developed at Prometheus were proving applicable to a wide range of challenging environments that other species had written off as too dangerous or too expensive to exploit. Humanity's combination of engineering creativity, risk tolerance, and adaptability was creating opportunities that could support dozens of new colonies and mining operations. But Sarah also understood the broader implications. Success brought responsibility, and responsibility brought new challenges. As humanity's role in galactic affairs expanded, they would face increasing pressure to maintain the cooperative approach that had made their success possible. "Captain," came a voice from the communication system, "Ambassador Zethric is requesting permission to come aboard. He says he has a proposal he'd like to discuss in person." Sarah raised an eyebrow. Zethric had visited the station several times during the negotiations, but always for formal meetings about operational details. A personal visit suggested something more significant. "Grant permission for the ambassador's shuttle to dock at Port 7. I'll meet him in conference room Alpha." 20 minutes later, Sarah found herself face-to-face with the Zephyrian diplomat who had tried to evict her from the system. His 4 eyes showed the same respect that had gradually replaced his initial condescension as they had worked together over the months. "Ambassador, welcome back to Prometheus Station. What brings you here today?" Zethric settled his elongated form into a chair designed to accommodate multiple alien physiologies. "Captain Chen, I come with a proposal from the Zephyrian Imperial Senate. My government wishes to formalize our partnership with humanity through a comprehensive technology sharing agreement." Sarah listened as Zethric outlined an arrangement that would have seemed impossible 6 months earlier. The Zephyrians were offering to share their gravitational manipulation technology with human colonies in exchange for access to human precision mining and orbital mechanics expertise. The agreement would create joint training programs, shared research facilities, and coordinated exploration of previously inaccessible star systems. This represents a significant shift in Zephyrian policy, Sarah observed. Your people have been reluctant to share advanced technology with newer species. Events at this station have demonstrated that technological advancement is not simply a matter of age or historical precedence. Zethric replied, Human innovations in this field have exceeded what my people achieved in 3,000 years of gravitational research. The Imperial Senate recognizes that cooperation serves our interests better than isolation. Sarah considered the offer carefully. It was exactly the kind of opportunity that humanity had been seeking since joining the Galactic community. Recognition as equal partners, rather than junior members. But it also represented a test of whether human civilization could handle rapid advancement without losing the characteristics that had made them valuable allies. I'll need to consult with Earth's government before responding formally, she said. But personally, I believe this kind of cooperation is exactly what both our species need. After Zethric left, Sarah returned to the observation deck to watch the daily shift change. Human and Zephyrian workers moved between stations with the easy familiarity of people who had learned to work together effectively. Children from both species played together in the station's recreational areas, learning each other's languages and customs with the effortless adaptability of youth. Dr. Voss joined her at the window, following her gaze to the mixed crews working among the asteroids. Do you ever regret it, Captain? Making the decision to stay and fight? Sarah thought about the question seriously. The past 6 months had brought remarkable success but also tremendous responsibility. The simple mining operation she had been defending had evolved into something much larger and more complex. The choices she made now would affect not just her crew, but humanity's entire future in galactic civilization. I regret the lives we lost, she said finally. Warlord Thurok and his crew, our own people who died in the fighting. But I don't regret standing up for what we had built here. Sometimes you have to risk everything to prove that you deserve what you're fighting for. She watched a human mining shuttle guide a cargo container toward a Zephyrian transport ship, the two crews coordinating their efforts with practiced efficiency. In the distance, the twin suns of Kepler 442 painted the asteroid field in the same golden light that had greeted her every morning for 3 years. Besides, she added with a smile, we proved something important. Humans don't just survive in impossible situations. We find ways to make them better. That's not just valuable to us. It's valuable to everyone. The communication system chimed with an incoming message from Earth, probably containing formal authorization for the Zephyrian technology sharing agreement. Sarah straightened her uniform and prepared to shape humanity's future among the stars, one careful decision at a time. Outside the window, the asteroid field continued its ancient dance, now monitored and guided by the combined wisdom of two species who had learned that cooperation was stronger than conflict. It was a lesson that would echo throughout the galaxy, carried by the example of a human captain who had refused to be relocated, and had instead relocated the entire framework of interstellar relations.